Hey everybody, Steve here. A few years ago I made a video that teaches how to juggle the 5-ball cascade. Since then this video has reached about like 120,000 views. So that's pretty cool. I'm glad a lot of people have found the video useful, and thanks for all the nice comments people have left me. Since this video has gotten a little bit more popular, I've gotten a lot of messages and comments with people asking questions about, learning how to juggle 5 balls. And I do my best to reply to all these questions, but it's kind of time consuming sometimes if a lot of people are sending me messages, and usually it's the same few questions that I get asked over and over. So I'm going to make a frequently asked questions about learning how to juggle 5 balls video. And this is that video. So the first question, I get this one a lot, about 5 balls and about other things. What is the best way to practice? Now, it depends on what you're trying to do with your juggling. Obviously, if you're trying to be the best juggler in the world, then you should not just take my word for it, because I'm not any kind of expert. You should really research several different methods of practicing and ask a lot of other jugglers. But for the most part, it's best to not practice dropping. Do not always just juggle till you drop. It's fun sometimes, but it's much better to practice short and controlled runs. So when you're working on 5 balls, don't always just go as long as you can. If you feel comfortable with 20 catches, just work on runs of 20 catches and always try to end with that clean finish. That will definitely help you progress quicker than if you just keep a sloppy pattern going for as long as you can. And there's a few different methods of practicing in general. The pyramid practice method, so say you're working on 5 balls and 20 catches is pretty easy and you've done maybe 50 catches or more. So start by doing 20 catches like 5 times, and then do 30 catches like 5 times, and then do 40 catches a few times, and then end your practice with, try to get one run of 50 catches. That's just a general guideline to the pyramid practice structure. Also, you can do a time-based practice structure to where instead of really worrying about how many catches you're doing, just decide that you want to spend 10 minutes or 20 minutes working on 5 balls. And what you're going to want to do is just practice short and controlled runs for that pre-designated amount of time. Now, the second part to that question is it better to just practice 5 balls, or is it better to spend more time on the 4-ball exercises that lead up to learning 5 balls? And I would say spend about an equal amount of time on both. You're never going to learn 5 if you only practice 4-ball patterns that kind of feel like 5. You're going to have to try 5 at some point. But it's also helpful to do the 4-ball patterns a lot, because it will eventually make 5 easier. So spend, a few minutes a day on doing 5 and a few minutes a day on some of the 4-ball exercises that are helpful for 5. And a lot of times people ask me how much should they practice. I mean, it's up to you. There were some days when I was learning how to juggle 5 balls where I would just practice for hours on end. But if you practice like 10 or 20 minutes a day, or a few days a week, you practice for an hour or two, and don't only practice 5 balls. Practice other things in between. So if you're working on 5 balls for about 10 minutes, you can go back and work on some 3-ball tricks for a few minutes and then come back to 5 balls. That kind of helps break up the practice session a little bit better, and it makes it a little more fun too, since you're not just doing the same thing over and over. Again, these are just some general recommendations. There is no correct way to practice. Moving along, some people ask me, they say, I can do 3 balls and I'm working on 4 balls. When am I ready to start working on 5 balls? Now, the answer to that question would be different person to person, but you should really have 3 totally solid, and some people say you can learn 5 without learning 4, but you really should learn 4. And once you can do the basic fountain patterns for like 30 to 50 throws like pretty easily, meaning that it's not really hard, you can pretty much pick up 4 balls and do 20 or 30 throws easily, then at that point you're probably start ready to working on 5 balls. It's Again, 5 balls takes a long time to learn or to get good at it, so it's never too soon to start. So really just start working on it whenever you feel that it's within reach. If you pick up 5 balls and you try to do a 5-ball flash and you just drop every single ball and they're scattered all over the room and it just looks hopeless, then obviously you might not be ready yet. But even if you can get close to doing a 5-ball flash, odds are you're probably ready to start working on it. And now people have also asked me, or they've said, I can run 5 balls for a little while, so when am I ready to start working on basic 5-ball tricks? Now again, this completely depends on the person, but once you can keep 5 balls going comfortably, it doesn't matter if it's 30 catches or 100 catches. Once you have a feel for the pattern and it doesn't feel like you're really struggling with each throw and catch, you can start working on some basic stuff, maybe try the half shower or some basic multiplex patterns. It doesn't really matter. It's fun to try new things that you know aren't within your reach, but again, like I said, if you try a 5-ball trick and you end up just dropping everything and it's just a horrible mess, then maybe you should come back to that some other day. And now this is one I get probably the most. People ask me, how long does it take to learn the 5-ball cascade? I'd say if you practice a lot and you're a fairly quick learner, it's probably going to take at least like 6 months before you can really run it comfortably for a considerable amount of time. Now, some people work on it for years and, you know, still have a hard time getting past 100 or a couple hundred catches. So it really depends on the person. Younger people seem to pick it up quicker. Young kids and teenagers, they seem to learn quicker than older people that might be in their 50s or 60s if they waited later to start. So if you're young, you definitely have an advantage, I think. And yeah, depending on how much you practice, really. So I've seen a lot of 5-ball jugglers, if they're really motivated and they really want to learn 5 balls, they can be getting decent runs of 5 balls within less than a year. And after about a year or 2 or 3 years, you'll probably have it pretty solid, assuming that you practice enough. So I hope that answers that question. Let's see, moving along. Why? And these questions here are common problems that come up when learning how to juggle 5 balls. The first one is, why do I always start to rotate my body when juggling 5 balls, and what do I do about that? Now, this is a common problem when learning 5 balls. Much like when learning 3 balls, people tend to start throwing the balls forward out in front of them, and they have to chase after the balls to keep the pattern going. So a very common problem with 5 balls is turning in a circle. Now, the only way you can really correct that is to not practice turning in a circle. Meaning that if you're juggling 5 balls and you start to turn in a circle, don't keep juggling. Just stop juggling, catch all the balls, reset your body position, and then start again. And, you know, as long as you aren't practicing turning, just don't keep it going if you're spinning around in a circle, the problem should go away eventually. It might take a while. But remember, it just takes a lot of patience to really get comfortable with 5-ball juggling. Another common problem people have, I've had the question, one hand is throwing further forward than the other hand. What should I do? And the answer to that question is the same as the other question, really. Just don't practice doing that. So as soon as one hand starts to get throwing too far forward and your hands are kind of offset to keep the pattern going, don't keep the pattern going. Just stop juggling, reset, and start a new run. Another question I get asked a lot is, the balls are colliding in the air. What should I do? Well, I think the most common reason that this happens, if you have a lot of mid-air collisions in the crossing point of the pattern, is if your crossing point is too high. And if your crossing point is too low, the pattern might get too wide. So you have to try to find some kind of middle ground. Now, what I mean by the crossing point is the point where the balls actually cross. So, yeah, try not to make the crossing point too high. So if you're having a lot of collisions, try to make the pattern a little bit wider. And also, one thing that's really helpful when people are first learning five balls is throw a little bit higher than you think you need to. Because beginners with five ball juggling usually tend to kind of hurry the pattern and throw low and fast. So it's actually not as fast as you might think. So just throw a little bit higher and a little bit slower. And also make sure that you have a very even tempo. Right, left, right, left. If you're juggling the pattern a little galloped, like right, left, right, left, right, left, that might also cause some collisions. So hopefully that helps. Now I've also had people tell me I've been working on five balls for a while and I don't seem to be making any progress. What am I doing wrong? Now there is no, you're probably not doing anything wrong. It's just that five ball juggling is the first big hurdle with juggling. Like three balls is pretty easy, you can learn a few tricks. Four balls, a lot of people can be running four balls pretty consistently, like within a month or two. But with five balls, it really takes several months to get any good at it. And the progress is never noticeable on like a day-to-day basis or even a week-to-week basis. Like the only way you can really track your progress with five balls is to, you know, compare how good you are now compared to how good you are a few months from now. So you really don't notice the progress because it's very gradual. So you're probably not doing anything wrong, but it's a good idea to maybe film yourself practicing five balls and just review the film and see if maybe something doesn't look right, or you could post video online and ask other people for advice. That's always really helpful. Another question I get is people say, I've done over 100 catches of five balls, but now I can't even get past 50 catches. What happened? Again, sometimes you might get a lucky run and get about 100 catches, and then a couple weeks later you're just not, you know, you're kind of out of practice or whatever, and you just can't seem to get that one lucky run. So don't really worry about always trying to beat or match your personal catch record. So if your best run of five balls was 100 catches, you shouldn't be discouraged if you can't do that every single time you practice. Find something that's more doable, like say if you can do 30 catches pretty consistently, and just work on doing 30 catches or 40 catches. Don't always just try to go for your longest run. I've done 7 balls for like 130 catches a couple times, but I can't just do that any day of the week. Like that's a once in a while type of thing. So keep that in mind. Now, another question I get asked a lot is what size of balls and what type of balls are best for learning five ball juggling. This just depends on your own personal preference. If you buy any type of balls that are specifically made for juggling, you'll be okay. As far as recommended size, I would say anywhere between 2.5 to 3 inches. Probably 2 3/4, 2.75 inches would be best for most people, because I use 3-inch balls, but some people have a hard time holding 3 of the 3-inch balls in one hand. So probably 2.75-inch bean bags I would recommend. And a lot of people ask me what balls did I use in the actual video that we're talking about, my 5-ball tutorial. I used bean bags from sportjugglingco.com, the 2.75-inch, so you can get those if you like. And another question people ask me a lot is, what do all the numbers mean? If the 4-ball exercises in the video show some numbers and notation to describe the patterns. It's a site swap notation, and I actually made a tutorial video that shows all about site swap notation. I'll put a link in the video description below, so check that out for my site swap tutorial if you don't know what all the numbers mean. And finally, people have asked me a lot, what is the music that I use in the video? And that's a good question. Let me search on my computer here real quick. It's the music that I use in my 5-ball video. Oh, what the hell? Was by Lynn Tate and the Jets. From their CD titled Anthology 1965 to 1973. And I can't really remember right now what the names of the songs were, but I will post them in the video description box. So thanks for watching. I hope this answered some of the questions, and I hope it was helpful. Until next time, happy juggling.